What about this one?
Oh wait, and you can say you wish you would wait even if you don't think they're having sex yet. It's perfectly cool to say that beforehand.
Yeah. Or advice about the kind of partner you might seek to have sex with the first time. Since we're talking about first times, what do you say if your child says, well, yeah, I'm thinking about having sex, but it's the first time's supposed to be bad, so I don't really care who it's with.
First time's supposed to be good. You got some bad information there. I think you should care who you have it with. You know, the quality of experience is one thing, but certainly who you've decided to share something pretty intimate with. There should be some thought and guidance that I think it goes into that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing when it comes down to the first time, thinking back to my parents, is to make your child understand that it only comes around once. You don't get a second chance, and you need to make sure the person that you're with, I mean, I know it's a young age, if they're thinking about having sex at a young age, it's hard to say whether or not this person is the one, because at that age, everybody seems to be the one. The person tells you they love you, they seem to be the one. So I think it's just really important to convey the message and just let them know that it only comes around one time, and make sure it's special, and that you always remember your first.
It's your body. I
I'm
just
taking
want to
this
meet
up.
this hypothetical child and counsel them quickly.
Okay. Here's another non-hypothetical child. My 6-year-old daughter just played, if you show me yours, I'll show you mine with a 6-year-old boy. What should I say? When should I get in depth with her?
I've actually had experience with that with my younger sister. It's a 10-year gap. It's funny. My little sister, she loves to read. So she just picked up a book. She reads. She's in 6th grade and she reads at a high school level. So she doesn't want to read the little kiddie books. She asked my sister the other day, what does provocative mean? And I asked my sister, how did you respond to that? And she said she told the truth. And I think that's important, just to educate what it means. Now, that question, when that situation came around with my little sister, I sat her down one-on-one actually, and spoke with her about, boys are not supposed to touch you, or no one's supposed to be touching you down there in that area. Girls have these parts, boys have these parts, and if you ever feel violated, or if anyone ever touches you like that, let somebody know. I think that's an important conversation at that age to have.
That's totally normal. I'm sure you know that. The most important thing when you encounter that, don't shame them. Don't do anything that's going to make them think they were bad or wrong, because they're not. There is a way to gently have that conversation and say it's totally normal and it's natural for people to be curious about what's under each other's clothes. And then you can explain why, it might not be the best idea, but just to, you just have to be as gentle with that as you can.
What would you specifically, though, what would you say if you were the mother in that situation? What would you say to the 6-year-old daughter? Yeah, it might not be the best idea. What would you really say?
Well, no, not to a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? No, I would just explain that it's also very important that we keep our clothes on because it's private. And you explain what private parts are, and you have that talk and say that now that you know what they are, and you can, at school we use little pictures to show, so that boys can see what's underneath the girl bathing suit on the picture. If they're cartoon drawing, they're not really anatomically correct that much anyway, so don't be afraid. But just so that you knock out that curiosity and say, but we wear clothes to cover up, and this is why, and it's actually a pretty simple conversation at that age, because really they just wanted to see what was under there. They're not thinking anything else, so don't go too in depth. You might be putting the cart before the horse in that case.
Okay. I think this might have a simple answer, but you tell me. If your teen, I feel like we're kind of trivial pursuit. If your teen has sex with their boyfriend or girlfriend, how do you tell them they don't have to have sex with the next boyfriend or girlfriend?
You don't need to have sex with your next boyfriend.
Yeah, just like that.
I think that's a beautiful question. I think it's a question that we're asking for permission to ask. We have permission. You have permission. You can say that question, absolutely.
This comes back to, Frank, something you were saying before about the messaging around like groups of friends and things like that. How important is a peer group? How does a teen's peer group affect their decision to have sex?
I think it's big time. But you gotta remember, what my dad always told me is, you learn what you need to learn inside this house. And you need to represent whatever you've learned in this house, in the street, so among your peers. So that influence that the peer group has on your child is going to be tremendous. But it's important that the parent, you guys, have that conversation with your child before they leave the house and instill those values and have that open conversation with them.
I just want to add to that. Yes, peer groups influence teenagers, but never discount the fact that your child is an individual. And although their friends may be engaging in some behaviors, does not automatically mean that they are. And you really need to trust the character that your child has.
Let's circle back to your story and what's going through the hearts and minds of children who are questioning, and how can, because statistically I guess 1 in 10 of the parents here are going to deal with this. So how should parents be thinking about it? How should they be dealing with it? How should they talk to or open the doors for the conversations?
And certainly this is a really challenging thing, and the data does speak to approximately 1 in 10 children who are between 7th and 12th grades are questioning their sexuality, and this has been something that's been shown in very large school-based surveys for about the last 20 years. And what we're finding is, amongst those kids, historically, 90% of those kids were initially questioning, a small number considered themselves either gay or bisexual or lesbian, and the kids who call themselves out and name themselves and come out earlier, that part's growing. There's still about half of those kids who identify as just questioning, they're not quite sure. And I think this is one of those times that, a lot of parents are quite afraid. We're afraid because we're concerned something bad will happen to our child. Maybe someone will hurt them, physically or emotionally. Or maybe we're afraid for them the way my mother was, that they'll be exposed to something, they'll threaten and harm their health. And I think for a lot of us, we're also afraid because there's been a change in the paradigm of the expectation we have for that person. And I think those are some of the fundamental struggles that, as parents, that a lot of individuals have when they first realize their child may not be heterosexual or may be coming out as gay or lesbian or bisexual or perhaps even transgender. What we have learned, though, is that when parents and trusted adults and communities can offer messages of support and messages of acceptance, that those kids do better. What we've learned is that when we have young people who've heard bad things or negative things from their families about homosexuality, and they get the same types of messages at school or in their churches or other places of worship, that there isn't a safe place for them. Young people who have no safe place to go and under a lot of stress, perhaps because of the threat of self-disclosure and all the things that might come out of that, and all the negative types of things, and discrimination, intolerance, etc., they look to find things that make them feel better. Unfortunately, most of the quick fixes that help young people feel better are not particularly good for them. Okay. So in order to foster, I think, healthy children who may be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender, one of the things that we can do, and as a pediatrician, as an adolescent specialist, one of the things I say is, I know, that you as a parent, you're struggling with the fact that your son or daughter has just come out to you. What are the things that I can do as a pediatrician to help you be able to offer the most accepting and supportive messages possible? Because that has been shown to keep your child healthy.
What?
I call this the hit and run. When I was younger, the homosexuality and whatnot, it arose in my family through one of my cousins. Conversation among child, homosexuality started to rise. And we were actually getting ready to come to dinner, or go to dinner, serving our plates. And it was my sister and I in the kitchen. My mom walked in and simply said, you know, if either one of you are gay, I would accept you. Just walked away. You know, at that time, me and my sister were shocked. We were like, wait, where is this coming from? What? Oh, you know, like, no, you're not worried about us, Mom. But there was no more conversation about it. She just said it and walked away. And for that, it was acceptance. You know, if it ever needs to be, we can have that conversation. And if I ever need to confide in her about that topic, she's there for me. And it was simple. It was easy.
The lesson there is, you have to dig a little bit for it, but it's remembering that as a parent, this is about your child, not about you and your needs, right? In that kind of situation, parents going through all sorts of stuff, like, you know, revising expectations, as you said, and trying to figure out lots of things, but what's really important to be a good parent in that moment, what you're saying is, put yourself aside, think about what the child needs, which is a simple message that says, if this describes you, I got your back, basically. And then just get out, Are there other ways to open up that conversation, Lita, that are teen friendly?
Sure, without coming out and being accusatory. I mean, this goes for talking about whether, or yes or no, is your child sexually active? How do I ask that question? Whether or not someone may be straight or gay or whatever. This stuff is all over the media. It's all over the radio. It's all over television shows. It's all over movies. When those little scenes crop up, don't just sit there petrified going, I hope she doesn't understand that. Or I hope this scene passes quickly. Talk about it. Talk about that moment. If there's a gay character on TV, talk about it. Like I said, your child will know how you feel by how you react to things. And, you know, if I was 12 and if I happened to be lesbian and my mom saw something on the TV when I was really little with the only gay character, with the pretend gay character, Jack Tripper, on Three's Company, that's how I knew what that was. But if she went like, oh, turn it off, I can't watch this, I would know right away, hey, if this is the case, don't ever tell her. So use those teachable moments. They're free and they're everywhere. All you have to do is open your mouth and say, what do you think that means? Or what does that mean? Or just talk about it.
Okay, the next thing that happens, if that goes successfully, and your child discloses to you
they won't on that first
one, right? Okay. So they won't on that first one, and you just kind of let it hang out there, right? Eventually, 6 months later, they write you a letter or something, or send you a text or whatever.
Text, message on Facebook.
Message on Facebook. By the way, I get it. Okay.